So it's just 5.
Well, welcome back, and we're coming to you live from KwaMashu outside the Bridge City shopping centre, which was one of the businesses in this area of KwaMashu, centrally located, of course, servicing the townships of Duzuma, Inanda, KwaMashu, and even neighbouring areas of Bambai and Phoenix. And just to see the extent of damage to this shopping complex is an indication, clear indication of what happened and the extent of the damage during that week in July. Of course, a dark day, one of the darkest periods in the history of this country, and today we reflect and look back and what lessons can be learned. Many communities that we visited during and after the unrest, and of course in the last days as we build up to today, to look back on what happened in July last year, and many people saying that we cannot find ourselves in that situation ever again. We've had a number of guests this morning speaking on a number of issues relating to from business and where the province is in terms of business and business recovery. We've also had an analyst just giving us her perspective on where we are as a country, what should have happened, what hasn't happened, and the work that still needs to be done. And of course now I'm joined by Father Studuzo Madlala, representing the St. John's Parish here in Inanda. And it's quite important that in this discussion today we bring in religious leaders, as we know that churches have played a very important role, in particularly in areas where there was racial tensions and racial divisions. The church has played a huge role in bringing those communities together. And it's not just in areas like Phoenix, which I know got a lot of attention because of the incidents that took place there and the loss of lives there, but it was other areas, not only here in the eThekwini Metro, but other parts of the province as well, and also spilling over into Gauteng. So I have the pleasure of speaking to Father Madlala this morning. Father, thank you very much for your time. Of course, you know, we are here outside this mall, but apart from the structural damage, apart from the losses that were incurred, I think one of the biggest issues or the challenges that society was faced with was the emotional and the physical scars, the relations between communities that were divided because of what happened during the unrest. The church has played a very, very important role. Maybe let's start off to sort of say, in the areas and the communities where you have been working, how did you find people there? I know that there were some people who had said, I will never step into this particular area and I'll never step into that particular area. But your assessment and working with people on the ground, how did you find the mood then?
Well, thanks. It is really difficult to reconcile, especially what happened last year, since it happened during the heights of the COVID. And also recently we've just experienced floods. So people have lost hope because they've lost jobs and also their loved ones. And also, you know, a hungry person is an angry man. So people are angry, they have no jobs, they are hungry. So it's hard really to reconcile, also to actually recover from what's happened last year and what's recently happened this year. So it is difficult to navigate, especially to preach to people who experienced what's happened last year, because like this place, it used to be one of the economic base that provided people with jobs and they fed their families. So we are really affected as a church. So it is difficult, still struggling, you know, still trying to find ways and means to venture forward, you know. Yeah.
I hear that, and you raise an interesting point, Father, about the fact that it's not just the scars of what happened, but also it came at a time where people were struggling.
Yes.
But now, how has been the progress? You know, have people received the message of peace, of unity?
Yeah, people have received the message of unity and peace. There's minimal peace to them, but the problem is still there. You know, what's happened last year, it's actually revealed what society experienced for many years. Yes, it's good to talk about transformation, but what about their stomach? They're still struggling. So in a way, they listen to you as a minister of the word, but the reality is what they're experiencing out there when they leave the church. They didn't have place to live, they didn't have food. How do we do that, you know? So we are based in a community where they see violence as the only result.
All right. Father, I'm going to hold you there for now, and obviously we're still going to continue with this discussion. You are raising quite important, scary points, though, about the current situation in the communities that you work with. But of course today, as we continue this discussion that we're having with Father Stutuzo Madlala of the St. Joseph's Parish here in Ayanda, just speaking about the role of churches in working with the affected communities, moral regeneration, trying to rebuild communities. One of the things that Father Madlala was saying just before we handed to my colleague there was the sense on the ground. Father, you were saying, and I think I'm quite scared to even hear that you're saying people, they are hungry, and as a result that has led them to violence and destruction. But I think to maybe also clarify for our viewers, Father, our observations. And our observations were that it was not just poverty that drove people to this looting. It became a situation where, it was mobs. It was people that capitalized on the situation and what was happening at the time. And I say this because when we were driving around and actually seeing people as they looted, the cars that were there, the vehicles, people had vehicles to actually get to these areas so that they could carry their loot. And those vehicles that we were seeing clearly to us showed that it could not have been poverty driven. And of course as well, the items and the areas in which they distracted, Father, was a clear indication that this was pure criminality for the most part, and it could not have simply just been about poverty. But I want to then move into the actual programs that you were doing with the communities on the ground, and take us through that. Are you having sessions with people? How are you counseling, Father, or how are your programs of engaging with communities as you help them to heal?
Well, firstly, to clarify, I identify poverty as one of the causes, but there are many dimensions, including crime. There are people who utilize this opportunity to fulfill their criminal activities, and also their many activities. Well, I belong to the Archdiocese of Durban under the leadership of Archbishop Babu Madlala. There are many programs, especially under Justice and Peace group that is in the diocese that's actually visiting the community, because I believe that firstly, before you implement something, you must also do the research if that thing is going to succeed or not. So there are many programs, but it's something which is difficult, because firstly you must first get people back to church, because I feel that we are the leadership, we somehow, I think, we're mute when it comes to what happened last year. I'm thinking about the Christian leadership and also leadership in general. So firstly, you must get people to church, and also you must try and have a connection with them, create a relationship with them, because they cannot listen to us if we have no relationship with them. What's actually happening last year was the new leadership. There's no relationship between the leaders and the people. And Pope Francis has also condemned violence, and also as the way to solve problems, because it does not work. So it's I believe that we need firstly a proper research as to what's happening, and also try and implement programs as well as these people. So the diocese is going through that now. It's trying to do research and also trying to find means that are going to be applicable, and there's also going to be fruitful for people, because there are many programs, but they are not sometimes effective. Effective enough.
Father, your parish is in Ayanda, and I know the social economic challenges and the social ills in an area like Ayanda, high unemployment rate there, and I can imagine, as you're saying, that given now the current economic situation, we went through the COVID-19 pandemic, then the unrest, then we were hit by floods, and I must say that the people of this province are a resilient people, considering what they have, what they've gone through. But what has been? Have you had much support from the government? Because there seems to be, some sort of a disconnect between the people working in silos, or different stakeholders working in silos, which often is the problem. You saying that as a church, you need to continuously do your research and your assessment on the ground on the community needs. But government also has a role to play in that. What has been the role of government in the past year?
Well, so that I cannot really say much about the government since I don't represent, I can only say about the church. But I believe that we should create a platform where all the leaders in society, including the leadership from the government, society, and also the church, where they create sort of a structure where it is applicable, it can assist the society. It's not only about government, it's also about us, it's also about people, everyone. We should be involved. Because the government can issue a plan, but it's not materialized if we do not participate in it. So I believe what's happened last year was firstly moral fiber, the new moral fiber, and also the new leadership. So we should have a combined leadership. You know, it's not only about the government, it's not only about us, it's not about you, the people.
Yeah.
It's about everyone.
Yeah,
we should work
point.
together.
Yeah. Important point you raised there, Father, that this is collective responsibility for everybody to work together. And today we're reflecting on one of the darkest periods in our country, and we're saying, let's move on. The mindset and the attitudes of people, Father, in some areas we've been picking up that people are saying, we've seen the extent of the damage, we've lost jobs, you know, so we will never allow a situation like this to happen again. In the area in which you are coming from, what are you picking up? What is the sense? Has there been a change in attitude? Do people realize the extent of the damage and the implications of it?
Well, it depends which, because young people have lost hope, but all people have got hope that things can be fine. But I think there's a disconnection in the search between the young people and also the old people. So they are those who have hope, they are very optimistic, but they also have lost hope. They have lost hope. Government, there's also lost hope from us, leadership. Like one of my teenagers, he says to me, "But Father, didn't do anything. Prayer is not enough. What do we do?" Because when you talk about Nando, also talking about domestic violence, that has been there even before COVID. Also talking about the other forms of crime been there before COVID. It's just during COVID, things were worsened. So it depends, you know. There are also those who are very pessimistic. So we cannot make an umbrella judgment, but there is hope. I mean, I believe people in KwaZulu-Natal are very optimistic people.
So certainly, Father, it seems work has been done, but certainly a lot more still, still needs to be done. And it's really the responsibility, as you say, of society in general to ensure that we don't find ourselves in a situation such as this. So I guess hope moving forward, but today it is very important that as we look back, and I think we've also been encouraged to see in the past, I think a week or so ago, where we saw people stand up and say, we are going to go out and protect our towns, we're going to go out and protect our malls, and we're not going to find ourselves in this situation again. Father, thank you so much for joining us, and of course I think we will continue our conversation with you. A lot more to cover with Father Stutuzo Madlala and the role that church has played in rebuilding and working with communities that have been affected by the unrest. Let's now, there's an insert that has been prepared looking at business over the past year and business recovery in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
The Durban Central Business District, shopping centers and warehouses around the city and in the townships were targeted by mobs of looters for about 10 days. Many businesses and warehouses went up in flames. The survey revealed the following. The value of lost sales and stock is 40 billion rand. The value of damaged property is 15 billion rand. The value of loss of equipment and machinery is 20 billion rand. And the statistics shows that 16,000 businesses were affected, with more than 9,000 jobs at risk. A year later, business owners are still struggling to rebuild and open their businesses. Some say they will never recover. Mbuso Ngalane is the owner of a fuel station in Kwamashu. The business was looted and burnt down during the unrest. He lost 1.2 million rand in profit since then. Ngalane says it's been difficult to get the business up and running again. He says he also couldn't pay his employees. 5 of his 42 employees opted for retrenchment packages.
When this happened, they had to pull out from their rental places and go back to their respective families. And Some of them, they had cars. Those cars had to be repossessed. Others had houses, which houses were bonded. Then the banks were not much. They gave them some sort of lenience.
Very few businesses have been able to reopen at this popular retail center in the city. Not one of the stores here have been left unscathed during the looting. Some shops are still under construction. Informal traders in the KwaMashu area says they've also lost trade because the large supermarkets remain closed. Many of the traders say they are battling to make ends meet.
Since the shops were looted, we are struggling. We sometimes don't even get taxi fare to go back home. Sometimes we don't even get a cent. We no longer have customers. I used to get up to 500 Rand a day.
Organized business say the unrest has dented investor confidence. But the chamber is confident that business remained, however, committed to rebuild and invest in the city and the province.
The worst part is the reputational damage of ensuring that the businesses trust that their investment is safe in the province, but also to get investors to come and invest in the province has been an uphill battle for us as the business community from KwaZulu-Natal, given what happened with the unrest.
This fast food outlet, which suffered major fire damage after the looting, appears to be just one of the many businesses which might never open its doors again. SABC News, Durban.